everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Girls Who Eat, Breathe, and Dream Motorsport. I'm Jamie, I'm your host, and my guest today is Nick Golding. Welcome, Nick. Thank you for
Thank
joining me.
you. Well, thank you for having me. It's a nice change being the one being asked the questions rather than doing the asking myself. It makes a refreshing change.
Yes, understandable. Let's mention Le Mans for a second,
Oh,
because did you watch?
so not I'll be honest, normally I might watch, I call it the 30-minute rule. I will watch the first 10 minutes. I'll then watch 10 minutes in bed around midnight, and then the last 10 minutes. However, last weekend for Racing News 365, I had to cover it. So I think I watched 18 of the 24 hours. Thankfully, the 6 hours I didn't watch, four of those were behind the safety car. So it
Oh,
actually
yeah.
worked out really well. But what a race. I think it was every hour except maybe two. It rained. It was for someone who's never really watched Le Mans before or World Endurance, it was, I think I might be tuning in again next year.
Yeah, I watched last year, and then I was working for the H&M, and it started on fall like this year, and I was working at that moment. I was like, oh no, it's like this year. I was like, I'm going to take the day off this year because I want to see it. Uh, but I mean, I have respect for the photographers because they have standing in the rain almost always,
I
which
mean,
is
I,
insane.
I mean, just the whole event in general, like even being a spectator, and obviously for those who are sitting outside for 24 hours in the rain as well, I think any job where you're outside in the rain, I think I take my invisible hat
Yeah,
off because I couldn't do it. I would probably either A, get a cold, get the flu, or probably B, cry. I don't think being outside in the rain for that amount of time, and it was cold as well. It wasn't even warm. So, you know,
no,
and I hate the cold in itself. So it's like my worst nightmare if I was there in person. But to watch it from, well, I say the comforts of my bed, I was actually typing away the reports. But it's the thing that's incredible with Le Mans the last weekend is the race literally went down to the last lap. You know, it's crazy when you think of Formula One, and sometimes you know who's going to win after lap two or 70 or whatever. Whereas Le Mans, it took 24 hours to actually find out and know who was going to win. It's crazy when you think about it as well that there's so many different strategies and everything, and yet still down to that very last lap, you had no idea if that Ferrari was going to make it or not. It's different, but very special.
yes, I remember that I wanted to go this year. I kind of happy that I didn't rent because of the rain, but it's insane. Like I've tried to watch everything, and then at some point I think it was like 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. I was like, in the morning, I was like, I'm going to take a nap because I'm not going to get to the end. But also like at the behind the safety car at some point, I think the commentators were losing their minds.
Yeah, just a little bit. I mean, I saw some clip. I think it was the Italian. I saw a clip on Twitter of the Italian commentators who started singing some football chant, which I mean, fair play to them as well. I couldn't be. I know they take it in turns, but it's a
Yeah.
long time. It's a long time, but it's nice to see so many Formula E drivers in there as well, and of course, one of them on the podium.
Yes, I was very happy. I was like, Nick has had a hard time
Yeah.
in F1, and then coming back to Formula E, people don't give him the praise he deserves. And then he was on the podium, and I was like, you see, this man can drive.
And they started last as well in the hypercar class, which is, okay, I know qualifying was kind of irrelevant given how much rain there was, but the number seven Toyota started in last and finished second, which was, I mean, it was so close to the win.
Yes.
It's and I think for him as well, what a story from obviously what happened last year to obviously going into this year. Obviously, it's just things are starting to go right for him as well now. He got the points in Shanghai, obviously won the WEC race in Imola. So it's all of a sudden it's like things are going well for him. And it's nice to see because he's a good guy. He's always a good person
Yes.
to speak to.
I also think it's good for his confidence because
Yeah.
you work so hard, and then the result stays out for Mahindra, which is understandable. It's not the best team at the moment, but they are getting there. And then people still remember the AlphaTauri days to F1 fans. And then I'm like, but he's still a good driver. He wasn't a bad driver in Formula One as well. Like he didn't have the car. And I remember last year when Roland left Mahindra, people were saying, yeah, he's so bad, this, that. I was like, you're as fast as the car is. Like if you don't have the best car, it's mainly impossible to actually win. Like I don't think people give drivers credit where credit is due. Like
Yeah, I completely agree.
yeah, sometimes it's the best they can do at this point. Like
I think in motorsport, as fans, we and I guess a journalist as well, we are very, and it is wrong, we're very quick to judge. If somebody has one bad race, but if they're expected to do amazing things, then very quickly they get, described as being, rubbish, why they here, and this and that, which is obviously similar to really what I guess Nick received, last season at AlphaTauri. But people forget that actually the AlphaTauri he was in last year at the time was probably the worst car on the grid at that moment. It
yes,
wasn't until he'd left that all of a sudden big upgrades came in, obviously the performance has improved. So I think that's just a thing across the board where, and I think it's the case maybe for all sports, is that we're so quick to judge. We don't give, yeah, we don't give the person time to really showcase what they can do. But I guess that's just, I suppose as an athlete, that's kind of part of what you expect. It's wrong, don't get me wrong, but I think we do just think, oh, they've had a rubbish race. That's it. Why are they here? X, Y, and Z. It's and then as we've seen with Nick, he's proven that he is the amazing driver. He's a Formula 2 and a Formula E champion for a reason. We know he's exceptional, but unfortunately, people are always very quick to label someone based on one poor result.
yes, and also like he's in Toyota. Toyota doesn't sign just somebody. Like I think
Exactly, exactly.
people forget that. Like they only see him as the Formula One driver who didn't really succeed, but one, he came from Formula E. Like it's a really different car than a normal single seater car. And then second, like they didn't really give him the chance to actually show what he was made of. So I'm always like with Nick, I'm like, he's still a good driver. That doesn't change. Like the same thing with Roland, what I said. Like there, everything, the comments people made, I was like, but you're as good as your car is. Like if your car isn't fast, you can show them you're fast. And I think it's the same at the moment with Logan. I always need to remind myself like Logan came in that seat way earlier than he was supposed to. So because Williams hadn't anybody lined up at that point, and he was the only one from the academy, which people still don't understand. Like, just give the man some grace.
Yeah, I think with Logan it's hard because obviously, firstly, it's amazing that obviously Williams were able to promote someone from the Williams Driver Academy. A massive tick in the box. It's amazing. Unfortunately, it's he obviously had a rookie season. It's very much when you're a rookie in F1, you've got to be given the time. It's the general rule. The ex RB or AlphaTauri team principal Franz Toz used to always say that the rookie driver needs 3 years to really show what they can do to actually settle into the sport because it's so complicated. It's so different to anything else. James Vowles obviously decided to keep Logan for this season, and unfortunately, whilst he has improved a little bit, you know, to this day, he's never once out qualified Alex Albon. I think it's 13-0, which is extraordinary. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, in F1, these kind of statistics, these kind of things get recognized very quickly. And obviously, what doesn't help is when you've got massive talents like Carlos Sainz, who they're obviously very much interested in, and obviously now all of a sudden you've got Andrea Kimi Antonelli, who after a changing to the ruling of the FIA International Sporting Code is now allowed to race in Formula One. So for Logan, it's a case of right, okay, he either needs to go and I don't know, maybe win the Spanish Grand Prix this weekend, which if he does, fair play to the man. But I think
Yeah.
it's a hard one because he's had 18 months now. Has he proven enough to be on the grid? In my opinion, no. F1 nowadays is so F1 is probably the hardest it has ever been to get into. So because of that, as a rookie, you don't really have that time to settle into the sport because as we saw with Nick last year, if you don't get the results straight away, you're going to get kicked out, no matter how good a driver you are, because all
Mm.
of a sudden there's some very talented F2 drivers who want your seat. So it's a hard one with Logan. Maybe if he was given more time, perhaps he would improve. But for Williams, and they need another driver who can be scoring points when the fight for seventh in this championship is going to be really, really close.
Yes, no, yes, that's definitely true. But I always think like just people forget they want rookies in, but also
Yeah,
forget that rookies need time. Like
exactly.
I think Antonelli is a very talented driver, but I'm scared that they put him in too early. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I don't want them to ruin his talent. Like because if he's not really performing straight away, people will say, "Oh, he's not that great." Like people are already doing right now in Formula Two, whilst he is just 5 races in. I'm like,
Yeah.
how do you mean? He didn't. He only raced 5 Formula 2 races. He skipped Formula 3. Like, excuse
Well,
me.
well, I was doing a podcast earlier on for the company I work for, and we were saying, Kimmy's 17 years old. When I was 17 years old, I was in sixth form, which is like the final 2 years of secondary school. When I was that age, I was going to McDonald's on my lunch breaks, whereas he's racing for Prema and has been testing for Mercedes and looks destined for a future in Formula One. It's a different life. I can't even imagine that kind of maturity you have to have at that age to be racing in F2 or F1, and it is just a different world. But the thing with being a rookie is that it's the same over several championships, because even in Formula E, we always say that, as a rookie, it's very, very difficult to get through your first year. And actually, it's this, if you make it to the second year, you've done an incredible job. Look at Antonio Giovinazzi, an XF1 driver who came into FE and was shocking. This, without saying rude, but actually he's then gone and done amazing things with Ferrari and Le Mans, in the World Endurance Championship. He's a very, very good driver, but obviously to be a rookie and to try and make, understand the different machinery and get the result, it's so hard. I can't imagine the pressure, any kind of rookie driver is under, regardless of the championship, because I might be the new guy here, but if I don't perform, I've got to look for another job next year. It's hard enough, in I say the normal world, when you go into a
Mm.
new job, you've got to perform to not get sacked. For them, it's a case of, okay, I've got millions of people watching me, and if they don't think I'm doing a good job, my team are going to say, "Hey, thank you, bye bye." It's it's just a different world, and for a 17-year-old too, it's I think he is the next big thing. Everyone keeps saying he's almost the next Max Verstappen, and from the looks of it, I think it's probably true. He's a special talent. I think when we do see him in F1, because we're going to, it's going to happen. Let's be honest. It's going to be a very special thing to watch and see how he kind of blossoms in the same way we saw Max Verstappen when he came in at 17 and a half years old. We saw him, this very young driver, still with, you know, clearly not very good PR training, but you see him grow up, and we're going to see the same with Kimi. And I think that's quite a special thing, because as a fan, you remember these things as well, and it makes you connect with the driver. So I can't wait for him to be in F1, to be honest. Hopefully it happens soon.
Yeah, same. But I'm always like, people don't judge him too fast
Protect him.
because like I'm like only like I think it is the thing is like the people in F1 like teams they kind of know, but fans are ruthless. Like they will just say how it is, and
Well, it's even worse
even if it's
now.
not really nice thing
Yeah.
to say or
It seems to be 2021, the whole Hamilton Verstappen. That was and kind of during COVID as well. There was such a big change in how fans communicate, and obviously mainly through social media. It was some of the stuff that was in on, and still is said every day on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, or Instagram, to be honest, in comment section. It's ruthless and in some cases disgusting and horrible. And a lot of drivers I know don't even bother looking at social media, because some of the stuff you read is, I've had stuff said about me from questions I've asked, or my work, but it's like, it is a ruthless world. It's not, and it's not only about the mental side of it on the track, it's also off the track. And there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that you wouldn't even imagine. And it's like you said there, for a 17-year-old, if you've had a crap race, that age, you can imagine going home, looking at TikTok or Instagram, and you're just seeing people have made edits of you crashing or hitting someone or something. It's like every day I go on TikTok, I used to always see like edits of like Daniel Kvyat crashing into people or Pastor Maldonado or Roman Grosjean. It's it is ruthless, and that's something else I guess you've got to learn to balance and understand. That it's the mental challenge on and off the track. That's the hardest thing, because I think once you overcome that, you're probably unstoppable.
Yeah, I think it's, I have had to learn for myself to stop fighting people in comment sections, because sometimes I'm like, you're not very, that's not even, it's not nice, but also you're not realistic. Like, I don't think any of us could do this better than people already doing this. Like,
It's when people say, oh, why did you dive down the inside of this corner? And you read that and you think, hold on, have you ever driven a Formula One car or a Formula E car at 180, 190 miles per hour?
no.
But again, though, it's fans giving these kind of opinions that gets them interested in the sport. It's a lot of the comments, well, some of them are sadly always quite horrible to read, but it creates communication, it creates conversation amongst fans, which obviously then, in a way, just increases the interest in the sport because it gets people talking about it. The fine example being, you know, Formula E last year, obviously in London, and we've got the car park, and obviously there was like 9, 10 cars all in the penultimate corner, which, I remember sitting in the media center thinking, oh no, what has happened? And obviously on social media, it was being absolutely, rinsed. People were laughing and joking about saying, Formula E and this and that. But the thing is, though, it got people talking about Formula E. And so it's kind of finding that balance, because you've got the one side of it where actually it's negative media, but on the other side, it's everyone's been talking about Formula E. And then you get loads of people defending Formula E, saying, give it a chance. It was just the weirdest instance ever happened. So social media is one of those things where it's all about how you take it. You can either just ignore it, or you can ignore it and look past the negative comments, or you can, I guess, look at the bigger picture and think, actually, there's still people talking about my sport. And 9 times out of 10, which it's probably better for someone to be talking about your sport rather than no one talking about your sport. Because if no one's talking about your sport, then it's not getting that interest.
True. I also remember, I don't know where it was, but then the Porsche 6 car won a race. I don't remember if that was still this season, but someone on Twitter said, like, how did he say that? Like, Grandpa Lotterer and past Prime Estra and the second best Van Tor. I laughed so hard, and the way that Lawrence mentioned it in the interview, I think it was so funny. I was like, they've seen this. Yeah. And I think it was beautiful that he mentioned it, and he was like, "Oh, that's good for a past Prime Estra and Grandpa Lotterer, and then second best from the front door." I think that was funny. It's just like fuck you to the person who put that on Twitter. But I was like, yeah, I would do the same. I will be petty as well, and I will mention it on broadcasts as well. No, that's sucked questions. I know who you are, but maybe my listeners don't. So who are you? And what
Who
are
am
you
I?
doing?
Well,
Yeah.
who am I? It's a very good question I ask myself a lot. So my name is Nick Golding. I am a motorsport. I hate saying the word journalist, to be honest. I don't really like that word. I'm a motorsport reporter, I guess journalist, online presenter for racingnews365.com, one of the fastest growing motorsport websites on the planet. I predominantly cover Formula One, but I'm also the Formula E editor. So that's actually where I obviously met yourself, because you were my tour guide in Monaco. And had you not
Yes.
been there, I probably would still be in Monaco, if I'm being completely honest, because as soon as I got off that train, I had no idea where I was going. You were my savior that day.
No problem. Yeah, I remember also, like, I was just walking and you were taking pictures, and
Yeah, because it was my first ever time in
yeah.
Monaco. And what amazed me is, obviously for you, it was like, yeah, Monaco, so what? And there's me, like, oh my God, it's another boat. So, oh, that's where Leclerc lives. And it was for me, it was like a different world. Whereas for you, it was, I guess, like a second home. And
Yeah.
it's just, yeah, that was for me, that was a really crazy thing to see because I was very much in tourist mode. My job went out the window for that day, whereas you were like, okay, we need to get to this meeting, so just follow me. And then there's me, like you kept looking over your shoulder, and there's me like a mile behind you. Yeah, no, that was a good day, and also it was lovely to meet yourself as well. And yeah,
I mean, I think it's very funny because I was so nervous that day because it was my first media day,
yeah, I
and I was
remember you
like,
saying that.
yeah, and I was like, I don't want to walk there alone. And you said that you were on the train. I was like, I just wait for you. I am there 10 minutes earlier than you are, so I will wait.
Well, thankfully, I've been told I'm a nice person, so
Yeah.
thankfully, and the thing that's amazing, I think, with the Formally community, and I'm not just talking about fans, I'm also talking about, the people in the media, journalists, reporters, that actually everyone is pretty much everyone is very friendly. So for example, for me, it was I had no idea where I was going. For you, you were nervous because it was your first media event. Well, I've been to lots of media events, but I've no clue where I'm going. You know exactly where you're going, but you've not been to a media event. Hello, perfect.
Yes.
And of course as well, it's then nice because again, you get and it's very quickly I think we were then talking the entire time when I was not taking pictures, or asking where we're going. And it's lovely because straight away, I got to know stuff about you, you got to know stuff about me. Next thing you know, we're obviously at the media center and obviously for the launch of the Gen 3.5. And yeah, it's one of those things because it's always nice to, and it's a horrible feeling, I think, sometimes when you can go somewhere on your own because I think when you're on your own, sometimes you can get a little bit into your own thoughts too much. Whereas when you're with someone, you kind of forget about the things you're worried about because you're deep in conversation. And again, the main thing being, I would have been lost. Otherwise, I would have still been in the Monaco train station wondering which tunnel do I walk down because there were so many. I actually got lost
I know.
afterwards as well. After
Yeah,
after you went, I found ice
yeah,
cream. That
you
was the
went
most
earlier
important
than me,
thing.
and I was like, okay, I don't find Nick. I'm going just to the pet lane, and I will see somebody. But and then I think I walked past you, and I was like, okay, you were standing with people. I was like, okay, I will leave you alone.
No, I then got lost. I then went with somebody to Zara because he needed to do a shirt to do some presenting for Maserati. But we ended up getting lost in the process. And I kept saying, I was like, I met this person, Jamie, who knows exactly where she's going. I have her number. I could just message her and ask her which way do we go. I'm sure she can take a screenshot and show us a path like a sat nav. It's yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
I then
could
did.
have because
I
it's
then
actually, yeah, it is very easy if you
yeah.
know the way. Like
I'm
if
sure.
you
I'm sure
just
it's easy when you know where you're going. I had no clue.
if you just go
London,
to, yeah,
London. I know. No, I still get lost in London. But
okay, but yeah.
Monaco started like an amazing weekend, and then it just progressively went downhill so fast because the Saturday, no, the Friday it just rained heavily the entire day. It was like 5 degrees, and which was crazy. And then I was ill the next day, so it just went. So from meeting you, it was up here, and then progressively as I went home, it was so far below it goes out the screen.
Yeah, I remember you were very happy with the stroopwafels.
No, honestly, and this just sums up, okay, the Formula E community because I have my name. They had a label with Nick, and I can't. I've still got the packaging because I thought that was the cutest thing I've. It was just so, and this the thing that the whole Formula E community and it being so amazing is that every single packet had individual names on, and I thought that was just. I mean, I think I said thank you about a million times. But it was, yeah, I can't know what I've done with it. I've still got the packet somewhere. So that's how much it meant to me because they were also amazing and pretty much got me through that weekend alive, to be honest.
I remember we gave Nick Cassidy also on, and I was like, oh, I think I said on Monday, oh yeah, good race. I hope you liked the stroopwafels. And he was like, oh, they're already gone. I was like, okay, that's fast.
That's why it came second. It was the extra weight.
Who knows? And also the same, like we gave it to. I told this story on this podcast already, but I think that's the funniest thing ever. I want to give Nominato a package, and Jake. I was like, Jake also deserves one. And I gave it to Norman. He was very happy with him. And then Danique was with me. She gave it to Jake. And Norman was like, yeah, he doesn't need it. He's already too chubby. And then he was like rubbing Jake's belly. And I was standing there like, what just happened?
This is where you then go, so that interview in 5 minutes.
I mean, I'm interviewing them in London.
Nice.
Not together, because I was like, that's too much chaos for the first driver interview for me. So I said, I preferably have them separate. But no, that was a very funny interaction. Like, a friend of ours filmed me giving the package to Norman because she's a big Norman fan. But then I was like, it's so sad. If you think about it, it's so sad she just missed that part because that was hilarious. At the moment, you just stand there and you're like, huh? What? But then if you think back, it was so funny because just the banter between them just was so funny. It's like, no, he's already too chubby. And I was like, what do you mean too chubby?
If that's chubby, then what am I?
Yeah, I'm like, excuse me, that's absolutely not chubby.
Oh,
But
Snow. I promise I go to the gym, I promise.
yeah, so funny. I love those interactions. But do
Yeah.
you have nice interactions with drivers like this?
Oh, nice interactions with drivers. One of the most special ones was talking to Jake last year after you won the title. That was pretty special because for me that was my first ever time speaking to someone literally about 20 minutes after they became world champion, which is, and to be able to feel that emotion pouring out and just the biggest smile ever. I've had a few unhappy interactions, which I can't name names. It was after Misano, so I think that probably says it all. I'll let people guess which drivers it was. But the thing that I love about speaking to racing drivers is the majority of them wear their heart on their sleeve, and adrenaline is such an incredible thing that if you speak to a driver after they've won, it's you almost feel like their aura, that you feel their happiness, like oozing out of them. Whereas if it's a driver who's been taken out or something, or has been hit and dropped them off a podium, it's actually quite difficult because sometimes they then fire questions back at you. And then there was one time this season where I had to quickly try and recover an interview because it was like, oh, what do you think? And I'm like, right, okay, impartial, you cannot give an opinion. And it's, yeah, in terms of fun interactions, I always have a good laugh with Jake Hughes. So he's also a massive Villa fan, and I'm a massive Chelsea fan. So I remember where was it? It was a race. I can't remember which one. It was a race last year. Well, did the interview and stuff and was chatting to him football for about 10, 15 minutes. Uh, it's really weird because you then it's so strange because obviously it's gone to a point now where I've been fortunate enough to have done quite a few interviews despite still being really young, and you kind of forget a lot of them because it's almost one, my memory is shocking to start with, but it's like these kind of interactions it's not that you forget, but it's kind of there's when you're in a media pen, it's both for the drivers and for the journalists, it's so intense because obviously, you have to speak to as many drivers as possible. So you have the questions in your head and you go up to a driver, spend a couple of minutes with them, and you don't really get time to process what's being said. You then quickly go to the next one that's available. So because of that, you don't really then get a chance to think about things until you're then listening back to that audio. And I guess that's a part of the industry, maybe fans don't necessarily, obviously don't see, and it's almost kind of a person eat person kind of world because when you're in that media pen, it's almost like we've all got our own helmets on and the visor goes down and it's like, right, okay, who's going to win? Who's going to get the most? Who's going to get that line that makes the best headline? So it's almost, you don't necessarily then get time to have those kind of interactions with drivers because you know that if I only speak to two drivers, right, okay, that's not enough content to get me to the next race. So yeah, there has been quite a few really nice moments with drivers, but in all honesty, I probably can't. Dan Ticktum, okay, that was a good one actually in Diriyah. that comes to the top of my head because I love Dang because I think he's brilliant because he has no filter, and that's amazing. He's honest and he says it how it is. He's not afraid of, you know, he's had a very tough journey in motorsport, and he accepts that entirely himself. He recognizes some of the things he's done in the past weren't right, but he accepts that and he takes that on the chin, and he's used that to become a better driver and a better person today. But I always love him because you know that in an interview you're going to get at least 10 words which on TV be bleeped out. You know, you'd get at least 10 to 15 explicit words of him just swearing or, you know, just saying something inappropriate. So I think that's always quite funny. It's always quite funny hearing a driver swear, to be honest, because you think they're going to be like the best behaved and then they just start swearing and you're like, oh my God. So I get told off for saying this language, you'll get, it's just, all right, okay. Right, okay, thank you very much, next driver. And then you listen to it back and it's like, F this, F that. And like, right, okay, I need to turn that into an article. So so drivers swearing always makes me laugh. One of the hardest ones was looking back on it, was speaking to Antonio Felix da Costa after his win in Misano, and also the fact he then went off to the swimming pool, jumped in, and of course then whilst I was eating my €4.50 pizza, which I've lost track how many times I've mentioned that, people keep reminding me, and all of a sudden it comes through, disqualified. And when that kind of happens, at least I do, I then think back to when I spoke to him and how happy he was, how that was such a massive weight off his shoulders, given obviously Nico Muller having done the Porsche test. And you think this is the moment, this is Antonio, proving Porsche wrong, proving the doubters wrong, getting back on track. And then that's taken away from him. And he could get it back still, obviously. And then you think, he was so happy in that interview. What, to know that he's had that emotion taken away from him as well. I've not really answered your question, to be honest. So yes, lots of good interactions, some bad. But again, the bad ones aren't because, for example, that driver's not necessarily a nice person. All the drivers I've spoken to have been amazing and lovely. It's because obviously when you speak to someone 10, 15 minutes after they've had something happen to them in a race, which it isn't a good thing. When they've had a crash or something, it's that adrenaline still inside them. You see it when you watch Formula One, they quickly interview a driver, they don't know what to say. It's always very short answers because they're angry still. But that's part of motorsport, and that's part of, in a way, my job to ensure that I get the best answer I can, but also read the room at the same time, because they don't want to be asked stuff that, you're not going to get an answer from because they've just had a shit race. So yeah. So again, to answer your question, long story short, yes, I have had some good interactions.
Yeah, I also remember from Berlin, like the first day, when everybody went to the media pen, like the energy dropped like really bad. I was like,
Yeah.
oh shit. I was like, ooh.
Honestly, it's
because you could feel it. Like it wasn't even like people were like really bad behaving. It was like the energy just dropped.
yeah.
Like, oh damn. And you felt it so intensely. I was like, I get it. It was a very chaotic race. I remember this. So I was like, ooh.
And this is the crazy thing as well about a media pen is, obviously before a media pen happens, there's the press conference where obviously the top 3 drivers speak for 15 minutes or so. And obviously all the media are there. And you can almost, as you get to the end of the press conference, when Saunders gets to the end of the press conference, you can almost feel a kind of energy, because then he says the line, the media pen will be happening shortly outside. And it's in a mad rush to get to the front of the barrier to ensure you get that driver first and you call them. And it's a dog eat dog world when it comes from that side of things. I love it, to be honest, because you can dodging inside and outside of people. I'm 6'2", so I normally get blocked out, but trying to find a way past to get to the front to speak to different drivers, and it's really intense because you only get 15 minutes to speak to as many as you can, and then all of a sudden, you'll be told by some of the press officers, okay, that's time. The drivers are going now, and you just feel the room just like all this energy is so high, and then it's just and it just goes flat because everyone's then knackered. Also, everyone then seems to go straight to get a drink because they've just been almost running around for like 15 minutes speaking to drivers. They all get a drink, then all of a sudden the media center goes silent because the laptops go open, all the headphones go on, so they listen to the audio, and then for anybody that then walks in, all they can hear is just just the typing. It's for anyone you say for anyone who's not like a journalist or in the media side of it, it's quite surreal to be honest, because it's just for us, that's almost like our race starting kind of thing. Who can get the best article out first from the race? So it's again, it's and I remember my first media sentence. My first race was London 2 years ago now. And I was so nervous because weirdly, I was always quite comfortable speaking to drivers. But when it came to speaking to other journalists and peers and stuff, I was awful. So like it was almost when that work visor went down, absolutely fine. But as soon as that visor goes back up, I had real problems. So doing something like this, for example, previously, not a chance in hell. Thankfully, I'm okay now, as you can see. But for me, it's almost you have to kind of, and I assume probably, I guess you can say as well how you felt about this. But when I then went to my first media pen and you see the mad rush, you kind of have to stand there for a second and take it all in like, whoa, this is pretty intense. This is it's almost like a race. And then all of a sudden you
Yeah,
kind
it
of
is.
get sucked into it. And once you get into it, it's okay, now we go for it. It's really special and it is almost like our own race. That's how I like thinking about it. It's the media race.
Yeah, that's true. I also like I was in Monaco. I didn't do a lot of media because the Nick was there, and I also needed to take care of my friends. But in Berlin, I chose to do more kind of media stuff, and I said to Kim, who you already also met, she said to me, "Yeah, you know Nick, go introduce me." I was like, okay. No, but I was like, I'm going to shadow you because like then I can see, I can take things in. And I also remember like I think it was the second day. Um, we wanted to talk to Mitch, and he was standing like halfway the media pen, so he was standing there waiting, and then he walked off after the interview he did, like the interview he did before, and he was like, "Oh no!" And then we walked we followed him, and then he did another interview, and then you were standing behind that person. But the thing was, we were already waiting, and you looked at us like, I was here first. I thought, no, we were first.
No, you
So that's
squeeze
very
it.
funny.
Dude, I remember Monaco, the Friday media pen. So just before free practice one, and obviously it was the Friday where it did not stop raining. So all the drivers had umbrellas and stuff, and there was the Porsche Gen 4 announcement coming after that. So I remember the media pen had finished, but I wanted to speak to Mitch, so I quickly spoke to him. So it was almost like a Ted Kravitz interview, it felt like to me, because I interviewed him whilst Emily from Jaguar was holding an umbrella. And then it was just me and Mitch under it, just doing this interview. And the thing that's so funny is that it was a long interview for like 5 minutes, which for a media pen is quite long. And then all of a sudden the interview finishes. And because we were both going upstairs to the Jaguar Gen 4 announcement, it was in like interview done. Hi mate, how are you? It's like, hi mate, how are you? You doing all right? And then it just turns into just a normal like not like you're talking to a friend. It's Sao. See, the one thing that happened that was so bad in terms of media. So Sao Paulo earlier this year was stupidly hot. So it was like 37 degrees, but because of the humidity, it felt like low 40s. And so I've got an iPhone 14 Pro, which was actually overheating because the sun was so hot and there was no clouds. I did an interview with Nick De Vries, put the phone onto a glass table. Thankfully, the phone actually turned itself off, and I think, oh no, I've just lost an interview where Nick's spoken about Formula E, he's spoken about Lewis Hamilton and Antonelli. I've lost it all. Thankfully, it stopped it 2 seconds before my interview finished. So that was that for me. That was that was very much I feel sick. What's just happened? Yeah, so it's this season has been like one extreme to the other. To be honest, it's been a good one.
Yes, I'm very looking forward to London because it's my first time in London for me, and
So am I hold
hopefully,
it? Am I your tour guide for London? Then is this like I'm
yeah,
returning the favor? Is that what's going to
yes,
happen? Okay, fair
actually,
enough.
yeah,
Yeah, that's fine. I can do. I know London. That's fine. I can do that. Now London will be
good.
good, and I see it. Depending on what happens in Portland next weekend, I- we're probably going to have the drivers' championship will be decided in London.
Yeah,
I
I hope
think
so.
I think Jaguar will probably do the teams in Portland. So And it's always nice having the championship go down to the final race because, and again, looking back to last year, where obviously we had the drivers' championship sorted in the first race and the teams in the second. I remember arriving to London for the first race, and you almost feel like a kind of a bit of adrenaline just as a journalist, knowing, okay, like, you know, the championship, today's the day kind of thing. It's also a really cool feeling because even I'm not driving a car, or if I'm not in the race, but I'm almost like you're so engrossed into it, where it's like you do feel like the adrenaline of it as if you're in a race. It's a really unique feeling. But yeah, hopefully London this year depends if Nick Cassidy goes. If Nick wins both races in Portland, that's probably the championship done. So I hope we have it in London. I wanted to see it go down to
Yeah.
the last lap of the second race with the top three being the top three in the championship and hopefully no car parks.
Yes, I mean, I hope Nick wins the championship, but please take it to London.
Yeah.
Just wait one
Win
more,
the
two
championship.
more
If you can do it,
races.
if you can do it in London when I'm there, thank you very much. Now, in
Yeah.
all fairness, like, you know, there is some I like to win. Like, I'm not gonna say there is someone I'd like to win the championship, but I think to be honest, whoever wins it this year, it's been such a good year for Formula E. The racing, Mexico and Diriyah were a bit meh. But,
Mhm.
from Sao Paulo, the season's just come alive, and Jaguar have been phenomenal. They're so close to breaking the record for the most points scored by a team in a season. They've been absolutely on it. Mitch has done what he always does, but he starts the year not necessarily on top form, but then come the end of the season, he's right there in it as well. Obviously, Pascal's in it. Nick's obviously got the lead, but Ollie Rowland, you can't rule him out either because the Nissan should do all right in Portland and London. I think he's probably got some good pace as well because the track, in a way, is kind of similar to Tokyo.
Yeah. I'm not watching Portland because I'm in Spa. Spa is 24 hours of Spa, so
Well, I will be watching Portland. I definitely will not be watching the 24 hours of Spa. One 24-hour race a year is enough for me. I think I've come to the
yeah.
conclusion. I'll
I
stick to
mean,
45 minutes.
I mean, I normally also do, but I was like, I want to very much go, and my father hasn't been to a race yet, ever, so I'm taking him.
Oh wow,
So
that'd be
I'm
cool. So I've
very,
never, that'd be also, I've never been Spa. I've always wanted to. That's very much one of like the top three circuits and my like the tracks I want to visit bucket list if such a thing exists. So that'd be awesome though. I'm looking forward to hearing about that.
yeah, because Spa is like an hour or so away from where I am living, so
Nice,
that's why actually it's
perfect.
very close.
So you can even
Um,
stay at home. So you don't even need to, I guess,
I'm
like
not,
no,
I'm
that's
not,
perfect. There you go.
I'm staying at home. I'm
Ideal.
like I don't think we're staying at home like on the Saturday, Sunday, but the rest you can just
Easy.
drive home. It's very easy because at first, Danica and I wanted to go to, of course, the 6 hours Spa, but then it clashed with Berlin,
Yeah.
and we wanted to go to Berlin, so I was like, another Spa race, but I don't want to pay like a huge amount of money because I also want to go to London, so Spa 24 hours. I paid €80 for 4 days.
That's amazing.
And
That's
then general access and paddock. So I
perfect.
can't.
What more do you need?
Yes, I mean it's so cheap. It's not even funny. Like, of course I would want to go to Formula One race, but I rather save some money and go to more races in the year.
Yeah, no, I think the thing is, well, you got to remember, and I'm kind of at a point where I'm kind of learning this myself. It's you only live once. It makes sense to, experience as much as you can because you don't necessarily know, for example, financial reasons or health or whatever, there might become a day when you don't get the chance to do the things you wish you'd once done. And for me, that's, this year with Formula E has been amazing. I've done almost every race except for three this season. Well, I'm not in Portland, sadly, but it's kind of thing I've always wanted to travel the world with a motorsport category, and see the different cultures, the different climates, the different countries in general, get the passport stamps too, because I love a passport stamp. And it's, because, it becomes one day where you won't, you know, my legs, my posture is so bad, I'll probably be able to sit down long enough on a plane to fly to Brazil or something. But eventually it comes a day where you don't get the chance to do these things anymore. So yeah, when you get the chance and when you can do it, that's make the most of it.
Yes, that's how I'm thinking as well. Like, I'll, I fell out of love with Formula One a little bit, uh, but also like there are so many series to go to or to
So
visit,
many,
and
so many.
most of the time they are also like cheaper. And I get that people
Yeah.
want to go to Formula One races, but if you can go to more races in a year, I think my preference is that.
Well, and even you said yourself, though, for 24 hours, it's the amount of stuff you're getting to do for a price which probably won't even get you an F1 ticket. It is incredible. So yeah, and it's also good as well then to widen your horizons to different championships because you never know, you might go there, fall in love with it, and then want to follow that category for every single race. That's how I
Yeah,
guess that's how every championship is born effectively. That's how everyone gets interested. You decide to watch one race, see what it's about, and all of a sudden you're then glued to it. And next thing you know, you're then following it for you know the years that follow. And that's how for people get into Formula E, or any sport. You watch a race, you enjoy it, you follow the sport, and hopefully go to hopefully attend some races. It's the only way you can find out is by going there and trying or by watching it. So, no, I hope you enjoy it. I'm looking forward to hearing the stories. Hopefully,
yes.
it doesn't rain. Hopefully,
I
no
already
rain.
checked it's going to rain,
No, it's going
which
to
is
rain.
very
Okay.
normal.
Well, in that case,
But
make sure you take an umbrella
oh
or maybe
yes,
like a waterproof
um,
overall.
yeah. But I was thinking also, someone at the with the safety car, someone was like filming some fans, and they were like on the like plastic and had like looking things. Like I was like, yeah, I don't understand that.
Yeah, see, my issue is obviously I wear glasses. Well, see, I also wear contact lenses, but when it's raining, obviously the rain then goes in my eyes and it's just a whole mess. So in the rain, I wear glasses. But obviously the issue is though, if it's raining really heavily, I need someone to invent like windscreen wipers for glasses. I don't know why no one's done this. It might look ridiculous, but it would be a lifesaver. Just have a little windscreen wipers just in your glasses. Just it would I would pay good money for a set of that because that would make my life so much easier. So if anyone watching this likes to create business ideas and stuff, if you can create windscreen wipers, you can use my name as part of a company. Absolutely, I can be a model if you want and experiment. Try different types. But yes, that is something that I don't think exists, but I very much need.
I think you're not the only one.
No.
How does the race weekend look like for you? Like I kind of know, but maybe my listeners don't. So
A race weekend. So obviously it's very, very different from a fan perspective. So from the Formula E or Formula One perspective, what would you rather?
both.
Okay, right, both. So Formula One obviously is different. So with Formula One, obviously, media day is obviously on the Thursday. So that's when obviously for the company I work with, we obviously we have some of the races, all the races, and has been there for the past 20 odd years. Massively experienced guy, and he's an amazing person too. He will obviously do all the interviews, and obviously we listen to press conferences. He'll send across all the audio, and effectively you then listen through to everything, find the key lines, highlight them, and it's then a case of then getting the content out in an order that is going to result in the most views. So, for example, if you have an interview with Lewis Hamilton, that's obviously going to do more views than an interview with Lance Stroll. So obviously Hamilton gets priority. It then becomes a case of, with FP1, FP2, FP3 qualifying the race. So at my company, there's different roles. So someone will do the results, someone will do the report. We have a live blog as well, which I always find really weird because you start it an hour before the session and it finishes a couple of hours after it. But it's effectively, like 3-4 hours of just you talking to yourself. And it's really weird. So it's like, I had this for lunch, knowing full well that no one can reply to you, but people are reading it. So there's been times before now when I've been doing a live blog and there'll be like 40,000 people just watching what I'm typing. And that in itself is a really unique feeling. Obviously, for F1, I'm completely remote, so I'm not part of the team that goes to the races because I'm then the video host. So in the evenings after each session, myself and my lead editor, Race News 365, Ian Parks, we do what's called an F1 update video, we call it. So I'm essentially the host. I ask him questions about the day, and obviously we have discussions about it. That goes on YouTube. There's thousands of views. Come the next day, we do the exact same thing again, and so on. So I'm not only doing, for example, the writing side of things for the articles, I'm also doing script writing, planning videos around. But obviously for Formula E, it's completely different because with FE, 99% of the time I am on set. So I'm on location. So normally I will fly out on a Wednesday, taking the cheapest route possible, ideally with no connections because something always goes wrong, gets lost. I've had not one flight be on time this year. So it's been a struggle of a travel year. So with Formula E, I will travel out on the Wednesday, get to my hotel. Thursday is called media day, but weirdly, all the interviews take place on a Friday. So for the Thursday, I will usually kind of make a rough plan of my content. I'll try and see a bit of the culture if I can, because weirdly, when you go to a race, you don't actually get to see much of the country. You very much go from the airport to the hotel to the racetrack, back to the hotel or the bar, depending when the race finishes, back to the airport, then home. That there's not a lot of time to see what's around you. So I try and do a bit of that on the Thursday because as soon as you get in the paddock, you are going at 200 miles an hour every single second. You are running into the pit lane for interviews. You're then obviously running back to the media center to type stuff out. And the thing that's really, really hard, and Misano was the perfect example, was, I walked to the track there and back because my hotel was only a half an hour walk. I got back to the hotel with pizza and some other food. Was eating my dinner at about 9:30 local time. So the race finished 7 hours ago, but I always have notifications for Formula E and the FIA on because 9 times out of 10, a lot of people miss that because they just don't have the notifications. And obviously, all of a sudden, I was about to go to bed, and then ping, Antonio Felix da Costa disqualified. And I got a text beforehand anyway, giving me a heads up. And I'm there ready for literally in bed. Like, right, okay, out of bed, here we go. And then you, there is no time to rest because the only time to rest is when you're flying back afterwards. Because it's weird, if I'd gone to sleep half an hour earlier, I would have missed the biggest headline, the biggest story of the weekend. It's one of those things where you kind of have to go to bed really late because if it gets to 11 p.m. odds on the FIA are also in bed at that point. So it's journalism is a very intense world and not made for everyone. It's taken me a long time to learn to balance both my personal life, the workload, but also the mental side of things as well. Because with myself doing more and more video content, with that does come some not very nice comments. And that's something I've had to learn to deal with. So it's the word to sum up. Intense is a great way to sum up what it's like. And that's both covering remote, but also being on location. But whilst it's also intense, it's also just a dream. From since I was a little boy, I've always wanted to work in motorsport. Originally be a racing driver, but not quite got the money for that or the talent. I think I've got the talent, but I'll let someone else decide. But it's for me, I'm living my dream. It doesn't feel like work. And that's very cliche, I know, because everyone says that, oh, it's not, it's my dream, it's not work. But for me, it literally is my dream. So because of that, it makes the intensity of it enjoyable. Because I also do feel, like I said earlier, I do feel that kind of adrenaline as well when a race starts and I'm doing my race report. So yes, does that sum up the question? I went on a little bit of a
Yes.
ramble. Okay, yeah,
No,
thank you.
it is. I mean, I fully understand what you're talking about because, like, I don't know, I fell in love with motorsport like 3 years ago, and I was like, I want to do this, but also the thing is, I talked with someone about this last 2 weeks ago as well. It's like because of social media, a lot of people only see like the good thing, the good side of it, and forget that's hard work, long days, a lot of travel, but like they forget it's work. I mean, it's nice if you like it, but you're all like 24/7.
Yeah, it's very much it's not made for everyone, and I know people who have gone into the industry realized, you know what, this isn't for them because it is so demanding. You know, it's whilst it might sound really enjoyable, you know, and this is going to sound really bad, I know, but whilst it might sound really enjoyable doing so much traveling, you know, it does get to a point actually where you kind of would just like to not fly and just have a week at home, which sounds crazy because I actually love flying. But even I've had a couple of times this year where it's gotten to a point I've got, you know, "Ugh, I need to drive to the airport now." And again, I know that sounds really, really bad because I'm so lucky to do what I do and I absolutely love it. But there are times when you kind of just want to be at home. And I guess as well with me as well, it's also a case where I haven't been doing the whole traveling thing for a long time. So it's also something very new to me, you know, and understanding how to deal with the traveling overload is I guess in many ways my current challenge. But it's interesting you say, obviously, you know, you got into motorsport 3 years ago. So for me, for those who don't know, so I can't think I mentioned this before. So I've kind of been in motorsport my whole life. So when I was a little boy, well, even before I was born, my dad worked for F1. So he worked for the media side of F1. So his job was going around the racetrack ahead of a race, fitting all like the cameras that you see on TV. So basically, he just got to drive a van really, really fast around some famous racetracks, fitting cameras. Um, but he also had his own go-karting team. So a lot of my childhood was spent in the rain, sun, snow, whatever, thunderstorms, watching him race. So because of that, I guess in a way, looking up to him, my whole life I've just wanted to be in motorsport because from day one, you know, I've been part of that world. I've been okay, not as a driver, but I've you know been in front of the screen watching F1. I've been at racetracks watching go-karting my whole life. It's yeah, and now obviously being and doing what I do is it's almost because there's still videos of when I was a little of when I was a child, like doing like F1 quizzes and stuff and knowing things that like 40, 50 year olds didn't know, or me randomly like presenting a Formula One race whilst at home with like a Lego microphone or something stupid. It's it's very much one of those things where it's kind of I'm very goal driven where I like I set a target in my head and then it's very, you know, I want to get there. There's no looking elsewhere. Maybe not a good thing, so it probably would have made my life a lot easier had I done that. But it's all come from my dad basically, which is I quite like that. It's keeps it in the family.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that my family of like my uncle and my father watched F1 like in Jos Verstappen days. So that's always funny because those things I remembered, but I didn't like actively watch, so I don't remember full races. I just remember that like Jos was in there, and you know Massa was in there, and that you know I know the names, but
Yeah.
I can't put faces
But
in
again,
front of
I think
my
that's the thing that's really special with motorsport, and it shows that it does. Motorsport in particular is one of those things where it kind of does get passed down the family, because like I said yourself, you might not be able to remember those things exactly, but that's all come from your family. Yeah, and that's something I love about you know the sport that we work in is you know odds on you know touch wood hopefully one day I have children and you know I'll hopefully share my passion of motorsport with them and I mean, they won't get a choice, they'll be watching Formula E and Formula One. So but I love that though because that's and especially with Formula E, which what's so special with FE is that it's very family orientated and you go into the fan zones, for example. And I always do every race I go to, I always go to a fan zone because they're all different as well. They all have different setups. But it's also nice just seeing how much fun people are having, and it's people of all ages, you know, and that's amazing because these young people are going to grow up, you know, to love motorsport and be hopefully maybe wanting to work in Formula E. So it keeps the cycle going, and that's whereas you go to F1, and I think it's not quite as family orientated, but a lot, you know, it's F1's so old and it's so popular, it doesn't really matter what they do in all fairness. Whereas I think for FE, it's so smart being family orientated because it keeps it in the family, but it keeps it going down the generations too.
Yes, and also as well, like I remember Danica and I talked with Jeff, like we also like want to showcase that there is a place for girls as well. Like
Yeah.
I think that is a really good thing. And people always forget. It's the same I always say with F1 Academy. People only see like the racing side of it, but don't see that there is like discover your drive and those kind of things, which is essentially what is going to help girls into like karting
And
and
yeah,
feeder series.
and that's something else that I think is so amazing about Formula E is that, you know, ever since I've started to work in motorsport, I've been a big supporter of wanting to get more women involved because it's not fair that they're not, you know, and we need it because it's then right for, you know, younger girls to be able to see, you know, there is an option to have people that they can aspire and look up to. So even just going into the fan zone and seeing how many young girls there are there, how many mothers there are, you know, showing, you know, their daughters the world of Formula E, but also in Formula E itself, there are so many females in the paddock, both from the Formula E communication side of thing, from, you know, the teams, you know, there's so much. And obviously we've also had recently, obviously some female drivers, obviously testing, and hopefully soon we'll get some more of that as well. And I think that, and the FIA Girls on Track is another one that you see, you know, so many, you know, young females who, and the thing I love the most is they all have a smile on their face because you can see how engrossed and how much they're enjoying. And hopefully, you know, even if, you know, I'm not saying necessarily all of them will say want to go and work in Formula E or a motorsport, but the fact that a lot of them will, and that in itself is, you know, by all means, it's not enough, and you know, more always needs to be done because at the end of the day, we should be having a female driver in the pinnacle of every, you know, at the top of every championship, whether it be Formula E, Formula One, you know, whatever. There's still work to be done, but I think in Formula E itself, there is more being done in FE than perhaps other championships. F1 Academy is another good step. Um, but yeah, it's just nice seeing as well that yeah, it's just how many young female supporters there are because it's nice seeing
Yes,
they've then
but
got that
yeah,
they've got that interest.
because I remember I came in to Berlin for the media center, and there was the whole group of F1 at FIA
Mm.
Girls on Track. And I was so lost because they were standing in front of the entrance. I was like, I know I need to go in here, but do I wait for everybody to go in? Because they were like standing in little groups. And then the security guy saw me standing, and I was because I felt so lost because they were all standing like everywhere. And he was like, you can come in. Which was so funny. I was like, I know, but I didn't know if I could pass or not. But then I was like, I'm happy. I was so happy to see all those girls because I was like, I hope a lot of you stay in at least in motorsport.
And that's the thing as well, isn't it? It's hoping they do stay, but the most important thing is at least, you know, they are, I can't think, trying to think of the right words here, you know, at least effort is being made to show them what there is, if that makes sense. Because if you go back a
Yes.
few, you know, go back 10 years ago and this kind of stuff wasn't being done. So yes, you know, we are still, as a sport, we are still too male dominated. That's the truth. You know, hopefully one day it will be 50-50 and it will be, hopefully one day it will be a case of, you know, it will just be the best person gets the job rather than somebody being chosen for their gender, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we do need more women, and hopefully one day we get, you know, in the near future we get a woman on it. I think even a female driver would be such a big thing because that then is somebody who'll be on screen week in, week out and will grow themselves an audience and will give young, you know, females somebody to look up to. Because you look at world motorsport and, you know, for example, Jamie Chadwick is doing an amazing job, obviously, won her first Indy NXT race. And that in itself, you know, the social media reaction was massive. And that's so good to see. But, you know, we need to get to a point where it is normal for a female to win a motorsport. You know, it's an amazing achievement. Do not get me wrong. And it's so good
Mm.
to see how much come out of it. But we need to get to a point, hopefully, one day in the future where, you know, the driver is celebrated for winning the race. It's not about, you know, their gender because it's almost, I don't want to say singling them out. Do you get what is what I'm trying to say making sense?
Yes. No, I understand. Like that it's very special for them to do so well. It's
Yeah,
just they're so good drivers. Like they're not worse or better than a
exactly,
guy or a
exactly.
boy. Like think I remember reading somewhere like that when a female driver makes a mistake, it's because they're female, but when
Yeah.
the boy or the guy makes a mistake, it's just a mistake. Like,
Unless it goes back to, I guess, social media, unfortunately, there's always going to be people who think and speak like that. Some people simply can't be changed. Um, whether that's right or wrong, because again, it comes down to people's opinion, but it's very much it's just one of the unnecessary barriers that females in particular have to overcome. But they know that, and to be fair, funnily enough, one of my favorite interviews I've ever done, top honestly, in my top three, two of them was Jessica Hawkins. Who's obviously works with Aston Martin, obviously was in W Series. Unbelievable person. You know, I've never had so much fun speaking to a driver. And then more recently, Marta Garcia, obviously the reigning F1 Academy champion, obviously off doing FRACA, did the Formula E test recently for ERT. And again, such an intelligent driver and such just an incredible person to speak to, hearing about her journey. And, you know, it's the fact she used to be teammates with Dan Tixman in karting as well was incredible. And, you know, hearing about the career paths that females have been forced to go on because despite their talent, that there just hasn't been the sponsorship. You know, they've not had the financial backing to be able to take the same route as a man. And again, that's something else that needs to change. And hopefully, with F1 Academy and obviously the F1 team is supporting that, we will start seeing, and also in Formula E, we will start seeing females being able to take the same motorsport ladder as men, because you know we want at the end of the day, I think what we all want is the best drivers in the top championships, you know, regardless of gender. And I honestly believe that there are some female drivers who should be, you know, in the highest championships, you know, because of their talent, because of their ability. And I think there's definitely some F1 drivers and Formula E drivers who are there now that, you know, probably don't deserve to be.
I understand what you mean. You were just talking about goals. Do you have any goals regarding your future in motorsport?
It's a weird one with goals because I kind of my big dream is basically just to do every single round for as many years as possible and just to be the best. And again, this sounds very cringy and very cliche. I just want to be the best version of myself. And that's both in terms of being a journalist, but also as a presenter, because they're two very, very different things. And obviously, quite often I end up accidentally then writing an article in the same way I speak, like I'm, you know, presenting a podcast, for example, or it's a bit more friendly. Right, so I'm writing an article like friendly, like I'm talking to a friend. It looks a bit weird. So no, basically my just goals in motorsport are to continue doing the best job I can, to continue making myself, hopefully, I don't want to say a household name, that sounds wrong, but I want to be a respected journalist and someone that, or in a respected presenter and be somebody that people can look to as a trusted source, you know, as somebody they want to work with. And the thing I love about Formula E in particular is, so I was 14 years old when Formula E started, and obviously now I'm 24. So I kind of feel like myself and Formula E have kind of almost grown up and matured together. And I love that. And that's probably why I feel like Effie is my second family almost. And I feel so close to that championship because I have grown up with it. And I want to continue growing up with it. I want to blossom with it in a way. You know, I basically just want to do the best job I can. And if I do that, I'm happy at the end of the day, no matter what life brings. I just want to do the best work I can. I want to keep speaking to fans because I think that's something that so many journalists don't do and they should. Maybe it's just because of my age and obviously where I used to be part of that community myself, but I think it's so important to get on with the fans, speak to the fans, communicate with the fans, because ultimately it's the fans who are reading and watching my work. If they didn't do that, I don't get a job. You know, I don't have a career. I'm doing something completely different. So, and the thing I love as well, and that it was, what was it? And I can't remember who it was now, but in Mazzano, so I got the fan bus one day to get to the track, and I got off the bus, and about an hour later, I got a text saying, "Oh my God, I was still on the bus, you know, but I was too nervous to come and say hi." You know, honestly that honestly that that hit my heart because it feels so amazing that somebody recognized me, and wanted to come talk to me, didn't feel like they could. Everybody should always feel like they can come talk to me because I love, just speaking to the fans and just people in general, because it's just fascinating and getting to know people. And I think it's always nice having a face you can recognize as well. So yeah, just being the best person I can and just continue to be nice, continue to be open to learning, and just, yeah, long story short, be the best version of myself I possibly can.
I mean, that's a beautiful goal. I think uh, there is no better goal, to be honest, because if you be the best version of yourself, you will also do a good job.
Well,
So
yeah, and I'm very much a believer in that, like, hard work is rewarded. So, for me, I've had to work for everything, I've had, been lucky to have in my life. I've had to work for everything. And in many ways, it's kind of maybe the person I am today, because nothing's been handed to me. I've never had any, like, no contacts handed to me. I've had to work for everything. I think that's sometimes a thing that, there's been a few times now when I've spoken to universities or university students, and they've been like, what's the best bit of advice you can give? And it's, you know, be the hardest working person you can, because I'm not promising it's going to happen straight away, but eventually hard work is recognized and hard work is ultimately rewarded. And thankfully, I'm working for a brilliant company now that, oh, mosquito. I'm working for a brilliant company that reminds me of Sao Paulo, that working for a brilliant company who are giving me the chance to become a better presenter, a better journalist, grow Formula E for them. Um, and this is only possible through fans reading and watching my stuff. And yeah, if I can keep doing that and hopefully go to a few more races, then I'll be a happy person.
talking about advice, that's was the next question. Next question. What is the best advice you have gotten, and what is the best advice you have given?
Best advice I've ever gotten. Now, I remember university thinking this was hilarious, but now it makes so much sense, is that when you are around a professional environment, so if you're in a press conference or being taught something, be a sponge. And by that, I mean soak in everything, soak in the atmosphere, soak in the environment, soak in what you're being told, soak in what's going on around you. It's you as silly as it sounds, going forwards, you will be amazed how big a difference that has and how much you actually do learn from that. But also, the biggest bit of advice and that I give people that sounds a hell of a lot easier than it really is, and it's obviously, apart from hard work is always rewarded, it's at the end of the day, in motorsport, everyone is a human. They might have different names, they might have different nationalities, but at the end of the day, we're all people. And it can be incredibly nerve-wracking speaking to a driver for the first time. I've been there myself. I know how it feels. But actually, remember they are a person. And the worst thing anybody can say to you is no. You don't know unless you ask. And as difficult as it is, if you're a journalist, for example, or a presenter, you have to ask the difficult questions, because that's normally the difficult questions that give you the best answers. And typically good answers is what gets the most interest from fans. Of course, it's being nervous is absolutely fine, and embrace the nerves. It kind of is saying, sounds weird, but enjoy that feeling, because actually you'll find that when you start doing it more and more, you won't get that feeling anymore. You won't be nervous. It'll feel like you're just talking to another person. So embrace that feeling. Remember how it feels, because going forwards, you'll be amazed at how different it feels going forward, speaking to drivers. But just enjoy what you do, because if you enjoy what you do, then typically your work is better. And I think just the final bit of advice is have a smile on your face. You'll be amazed how far a smile goes, because it makes you, I guess, more approachable as a person. It makes people want to talk to you more. But actually, for a driver as well, it's probably not a lot of fun when somebody walks up to you with a face like thunder, looking bored out of their ass. So, how's your race? It's have a smile, and be yourself. There's There's no point trying to be somebody or not. Be yourself, show your personality, because we're all different, and that's what makes us all special. And embrace that, and don't be afraid to show who you really are.
Yes, I think it's like asking. we tell this, I'm telling this on the podcast a lot. Like I keep repeating it, but I think that's the best advice I can give people, because you never know the answer. And
Exactly.
just sometimes I think there is the sense of like what is it again? Uh, Fake it until you make it.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's the best plan to go by. I think I did, and it's brought me a lot of amazing memories already. So
I think everyone's journey is different, and that's the thing. This is something I had to learn myself, in that I used to get really down if I used to always compare myself to other people, and that was kind of my biggest mistake, because then you get inside your own head a little bit and you start thinking, oh my God, they're the same age as me and they've done this and that, whereas I'm sitting at home on my Xbox. It's like everyone's journeys happen differently, but more importantly, at a different pace. Some people will just go straight into the industry, straight into Formula One or Formula E, whatever, and be in the paddock and doing this and that. Whereas others, it might take a bit longer because the opportunities don't necessarily come as quickly. But it's about enjoying that journey, because the journey only happens once. And don't necessarily think the end is the end. There could be another surprise around the corner. You never know.
yes. Um, the next question is also kind of in this area. Is there someone you look up to, and if so, who is that person and why?
Oh,
Can be everybody, but
yeah. So I
like
guess in many ways, I've got to say my dad, because whilst me and him clash a lot, it's ultimately him who got me into motorsport. It's from him having worked in F1. It's from, like I said, me spending my weekends as a child, my mum taking me and my brother to go-kart tracks across England to watch him race. So, I still even like remember, what like his go-kart smells like the engine. It sounds really, really weird, but it's such a unique smell, and that is what gave me the motorsport bug. I think in terms of industry, my hero is always Michael Schumacher. He's actually on my wall, funnily enough, because just his no fear, you know, almost do or die mentality, in that you always give 100%. And that's kind of, in many ways, how I live my life, because you only live once. And following a near-death experience a few years ago, I've almost, that kind of rings out to me even more, and that you never know when your time's up. You've got to make the most of every second and try and do as much as you can. Put 100% into everything you do, because the last thing you want is to regret it in the future.
that's true. I think sometimes I also like compare myself to people. Like I'm turning 27. I feel like I'm a grandma, which is definitely
You
not
are
the
not a
case, but
grandma. If you're see, if that's I'm 24, but I'm losing my hair really quickly. So what does that make me, apart from a potato or an egg?
but then I remember like I wasn't into motorsports like 4 years ago, so that also made
But that's
a
amazing.
very
So you,
big
yeah,
difference.
but you then look then, okay, so you're 27, but you've only been watching motorsport for 4 years, and look how far you've already come. Yeah, and this is the thing as well, but this is what I then say about everyone's journeys being different. They all start at different times. Some people watch motorsport their whole life and instantly think, I want to work in motorsport. Whereas for some people, it's not until you start watching it later in life you realize, actually, you know what? I want a piece of that. So it's embracing everything's different, embracing yourself, and not being afraid to try something no matter your age.
Yes,
Again, I
also.
appreciate I appreciate that's something very bold for me to be saying at 24 years old, but you'll be amazed at how many people I've spoken to who got into motorsport early 20s, even one person early 40s, and then decided, you know what, that's the industry I want to be a part of. So you're never too young to learn.
Yes, and as well, like I did a tourism I have a tourism degree. And also that brings a lot of a different experience with me.
Yeah.
So that's something I also remember myself like, you also done something else. Like it's not like you did nothing.
See, weirdly, I don't actually have a journalism degree, so I actually, why I'm a journalist, I don't quite. Well, it's because of COVID, because all my work experience in presenting obviously disappeared. But my university degree is actually in sports broadcasting and business, so I was essentially taught how to become a sports presenter, but also how to run a sports business. So nothing to do with journalism. I actually hate. Well, I'm not a big writing fan. I love talking to people. You know, there's always something quite special about interviewing a driver and then turning that into an article. But yeah, in terms of like writing, I hadn't picked up a pen since I was, I think, 16 doing my GCSEs. It was only because of COVID and me thinking, okay, I'm now 20 years old. I had all this work experience and I've now got none. What the hell do I do? Because I can't just sit at home on my arse and do my Zoom lessons in bed. So I joined a volunteered site, which basically just taught me how to do it. And it's one of the things as well, if you're passionate about something, you're almost invested to put more time into it to improve, because I think if you're, no matter what you're passionate about, you always want to give it your all and not necessarily be the best, but you have that kind of desire and that hunger to want to be better. And I guess I kind of found that a little bit, but again, it's everyone's journey is different. And that's something that I've had to really learn because of the whole comparing myself to other people, because it can be quite hard, I think, seeing somebody your age at a completely different step of a similar journey. And that can be difficult to understand, okay, why was that person chosen and not me? But again, it's a case of understanding our journeys are different. I'm just at a different part. I'm at, bus stop 1, they're at bus stop 6.
Yeah. No, it is the same. Like I just started. I think I started. It's now a month ago. I started copywriter like course because like oh maybe
Nice.
I'm learning something from it. Like I was thinking, should I go to university? Should I go do a bachelor degree? And I talked to someone from SIGO who I talked before with him, and I asked, should I do journalism, or did something with it? Did you do something of it? And he was like, I don't think you have to do that. I mean, I didn't. The things I use now, I didn't learn at school. So I was like, okay, then I'm definitely not going to study for 4 years.
Yeah, no,
So
I can do it again.
I was like, okay, then I'm not going to pay like 2,000 euros for 4 years and then do that for every 4 years. And then maybe even an extra year because maybe I fail something. I was like, oh, I can do just that course and I can learn things along the way. So
The thing is,
that
though,
was
like
good.
with university, and I think in particular the industry we work in, there's so much that you can't learn in university. The only way you can learn it is on location. And 9 times out of 10, at least in my case, I seem to learn things as a result of things going wrong. And it's a case of adapting and overcoming. And as soon as it's almost, and again, the best example was Sao Paulo, where it was so hot, all my phone was overheating. The next day, I came back and put it in it was kind of like it was like a small call bag that I had with me, and I can't think why I had it with me now. It was for something that was wrong with me probably. But that worked, and but it's the little things where it's even you can't be taught in university how to speak to a really pissed off driver, because you can't replicate that. And again, that comes back to everyone, all the drivers are different people. They've all got different personalities. They've all got different ways you need to talk to them. You can't really be taught that. You can be taught how to, I guess, do a general interview as such, but you can't necessarily be taught, you know, how to speak to a specific person, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I remember from Berlin, the second race, I was
Yeah.
shadowing Kim, and Misha, of course, lost the podium, and I remembered she asked him, like, I don't know how it came about, but she was like, can you talk us through the race? And he said, do I have to? And the funniest thing about that was like he was very short and Kim could do nothing with it. But only those 4 seconds, it was just funny because he was like, do I really have to? And she sent it off to Emily. She laughed as well. We were like, okay. But we're just, I understand, like, you have a shit race and then you need to talk us through your race. I get that that's not the funniest, not the fun thing to talk about, but like, just, he was like, do I have to? Like, yes, you have to. I mean, you get
Sure
paid
will.
to do so.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah, I guess if I have a bad day at work, I'm not paid to then talk about it. So that's my excuse.
Yeah, true. But that was so funny because you saw also his face. He was like, I don't want to, but yes, you have to, my friends. So, and as well with then the day before, when Lucas said he T-boned him, and that Kim asked then like, can you tell us your view of that? And you said then thinking at some point like, I want to say what I want to say, but also I want to keep it like very friendly, like not.
Yeah.
So that was so funny because he suffered him processing what he was going to say. So that was quite funny.
But that's the most amazing thing with live sport is that, again, it's impossible to know what's going to happen. It's impossible to know how people are going to react to certain things. So it's almost a case of, again, with me in the press conference, whilst I'm at the press conference, mentally, I'm already in the media pen thinking, okay, how am I going to word questions to people and that they actually answer it? Because again, no matter what your job is, if you've had a crap day, or in this case, a crap race, the last thing you want to do is talk about it again. So it's then about thinking how you can ask that to get a response, other than obviously then in which case them just not wanting to talk. Because again, it's, if I had a bad day at work, the last thing I want to do is, how was your day? Ugh. Like,
No,
that's your natural
yeah.
response though.
Yeah, I mean, I fully understand him, but that's so funny because it was on recording, so then it makes it even more funnier because you can listen back to it and just, yeah. I was like, do I have to? And Kim was like, yes. And then he starts talking, but just those little seconds, that was just funny. It's like, yes, Mitch, you have to. I mean, I know you don't want to, but
Please.
please talk about it. I mean, those little things. I think there's other things I remember the most, and I think that's like the best memories so far. Like those little interactions, like the same. I think it's so funny because Sanos actually told us the story how it came about with Nick and the love story when he wins.
Yeah.
But the funniest thing about it was when I watched Delia, at some point I was like, this love story, am I going crazy or is it really Taylor Swift? And then in Berlin it happened again. Saunders mentioned it in the press
Yeah.
conference, and then we wanted to ask Nick about it. So then he actually was about to walk away, and they said like, "Oh, just walk with us." And Kim asked him like, "Are you a Swiftie?" He was like, "Yes," and he had a big smile and those kind of things. So that was quite funny. And then I posted that little clip of Nick of Saunders telling the story about how it came about, and Nick just reacted underneath like, "Thanks, Saunders," like, "Thanks, mate." And I was like, "It's not even. It's the story is already out on TikTok because." I remember Kiara made a little TikTok about like, "Oh, yes, Nick just told us he is a Swiftie," and because she filmed it and added that to the video. It's like, my friend, this is already online for like at least 4 weeks. Like, it's not a secret anymore. And I mean, I think in this time of age with Taylor Swift, if you're a Swiftie, just say it
Embrace,
because
yeah, embrace it.
embrace it.
Like,
Because I think it really for PR, it's perfect. Like
And it's so cool
everybody,
as well. Like it's a song that everyone knows, it's a song everyone can sing
yeah,
along to, and it just creates like a really feel good environment. And I think it's yeah, it's and from that point of view, it's really smart because you know that every time he wins now, that's going to be played, and all the fans are going to be singing it as well. And it's just
yeah.
fun, you know. It
Yeah,
is.
also, but I think it's funny. It was like Nick, it's already out and
It's
about.
already everywhere. So
It's already everywhere. People already know. So I mean, it Sanders didn't tell a secret. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
if it was a secret, I don't think I used the clip to promote the podcast. But I was like, everybody already know this. This no secret anymore. And as well, like, if he wins, we will hear the story again. So
yeah,
it's quite obvious now.
yeah.
But yeah, there's little things. I think that makes the most out of those long days. Like it was so long on the Saturday, for example. That was a long day because
That was
we
a long
also
day.
went to watch Eurovision.
Well, yeah, yeah. So what the day finally ended about what 1, 2 a.m. It was a good day
Oh
though.
yes,
Apart from
yes,
Croatia not
yeah.
winning, but that was
I
that
had
was
a
the
lot of
saddest
fun.
part. That was good fun.
No, but also Daniel, who was with me with us, he actually is from Switzerland. So I met him on the Friday, so I didn't even know him that long. But I think that was the most fun thing about Berlin was him seeing Switzerland win Eurovisions. There was so much emotion. I filmed it because I was like, okay, I want to I want to send him that
Yeah.
because it's a great memory. Like you're with people you actually beforehand didn't know. You now become friends with those people, and you're watching Eurovision, and your country wins. Like
So
I don't
that
think
was a
it's
really cool thing with Berlin is obviously, and I guess it's a really cool thing for me because it was me who organised the Eurovision party. So now I'm the king of organising. But it was so special as well because that just one event, you know, just some random sports bar in Berlin brought together like 20, 30 people who majority of them had never met each other before. But yet everyone was cheering, drinking, singing, laughing, crying. Uh, yeah, it was a special night. And again, that's the thing I love about Formula E is that the community has that about it and that people can just come together like that. Hi, how are you? You know, my name's Nick or whatever. And the next thing you know, you're all hugging and drinking and like I said, and just enjoying each other's company, which is a really special thing because that's the Eurovision night, or just a night in general. I'm gonna remember for a long time because it was a lot of fun. It was good fun.
yes. I think like outside Formula E, I think that is like the best memory so far. Like a race weekend. I
It's
mean,
yeah, it's one of my highlights of this year to be honest with you, just from a night in general. Because again, I love Eurovision, I always have, but it was more a case of again, it was just nice watching it with different people as well, and just it was just nice having everyone was there because they like for the same passion for the same thing they enjoy, and it didn't matter who you were, it was everyone just enjoyed each other's company, which is a really special feeling.
yes. I remember I remember that I wasn't sure and I was walking up to you. Is it still on?
Yes, it is still on. I had a lot of people asking that actually because they were like, and I was then so nervous because obviously I got to the sports bar first. I was there half an hour before Eurovision started, and I asked at the bar so many times, "You are going to turn over, right? Eurovision." And then it got to 8:59, and I was thinking, "Oh no, it's 1 minute, and they're still showing football. This is not good. All these people have come here, and they're not even going to put it on." And then thankfully they turned it on, and yeah, it was a good night. Same. I've not even looked yet if a race clashes with Eurovision next year. I've not looked at that yet.
I didn't look so far yet
You know what? I'm gonna do
either.
it. I'm gonna do it now quickly because that's now come into my mind. So let's
I
have a look.
mean, Berlin is clashing again with a rec race, which is insane
Yeah,
because it's they put it 2 months
yeah.
to
So
the
so
back.
obviously, and the thing that's I guess worse this time around, obviously, with this year with the clash this year, the drivers were at least able to. Okay, they couldn't race, but they obviously were in Berlin for the second race. for next year, the clashes with Interlagos, which is in Sao Paulo, Brazil, that's going to be physically impossible to get to Berlin for the second race, which is a massive disappointment because it means the team won't have the support of one of the main drivers. It's annoying, but as it was made out to me, at the end of the day, okay, I know WEC is the same number of races, but we also have 6 clashes with F1. But every championship is increasing its calendars. The more you increase your calendars, the more clashes there are physically going to be because there's only 52 weekends in a year, and obviously, and you kind of, it's going to get to a point where we've got a race on Christmas Day or something silly. It's naturally
Who
going to
knows?
happen, and no, who knows, right? So far, they haven't got a date up yet, so I'm
Okay.
hoping that so I'm going to have to keep an eye on that because that's now up here because hopefully it's a clash with no, because obviously it won't be Berlin because Berlin's in July.
Yeah.
Also, it could be well. Hopefully, if there is a clash, it's a country that enjoys Eurovision as much as Germany does.
Oh yes.
Otherwise,
I
I've got a
also, yeah,
tough
but
choice
also I
to
think
make.
it's, yeah, I think it's so funny that um at some point the whole bar was just watching and cheering, and
It was an
I
incredible thing
think
because there were so many nationalities there, and you could literally start cheering about anything, and everyone would just start cheering for no reason. It was, and again, that's a really cool thing of Eurovision is that it just brings people together. You know, it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter what you look like. Everyone just comes together, and that's a really special thing because there's not a lot of things nowadays that have that kind of impact, to be honest with you. So from that point of view, it was very special.
but let's go back to the questions.
Yeah, back on track. What was
uh,
the question?
yeah, no, I have another question. You kind of already mentioned this, but tips for people who want to do what you are doing right now.
Tips for people that want to do what I'm doing. So it depends on the age. So the best thing in terms of presenting is that TikTok is a great place to start, to be honest, because with TikTok, it's for a very basic app, there's a lot you can do with it. And there's a lot of people who have gained or have now got a job because of growing a TikTok following. And the thing with TikTok is that obviously, as long as you're the correct age to be able to use TikTok, which I'm not actually sure what that is, you can start making content. And the best thing about that is you can experiment, you can see what works for you, what kind of style you works with. So at the moment, I'm actually helping an aspiring presenter from Brazil, and she's been working on her TikTok stuff because she's recognized that as a good way to, try and gain a following and hopefully maybe get a job in the industry one day. So for the presenting side and YouTube as well, and the good thing of YouTube is also a case of you can get a basic editing software for free. Best one, DaVinci Resolve for anybody who just wants some free software. That's free and it's very similar to Adobe Premiere Pro, so I'd recommend that. But again, I think for your wanting presenting, just trying to be in front of a camera or try and commentate over a race you're watching, for example, but record yourself. You don't have to be on a location to be able to gain the experience. From the writing perspective, again, just open your laptop or pick up a pen and paper and write. It's and again, it's one of those things where so I gained my experience through originally a company called Drive Tribe. So I'd never written an article in my life. And obviously it was during COVID, I had to do something because I didn't like just sitting around doing nothing, knowing that when COVID ends, I'd have nothing to fall back on. So at Drive Tribe, from that place, I wrote a couple of articles which did really, really well. And then I started volunteering for a company called the Checker Flag. And from that, I basically got, a mentor who highlighted areas I was making mistakes, taught me on how to improve my writing, and from putting in the hours for free. And that was okay. The big thing is that whilst it was volunteering and people are quick to judge that it's not for any money, I think that's the first thing people jump on is, do I get paid for it? Of course, I understand that things are very, very expensive these days, but from volunteering at the Checker Flag for 18 months, the amount of experience I gained and the contacts I got have led me down this path where obviously today I'm working for one of the biggest motorsport companies in the world, which is continuing to rapidly grow. So from a writing perspective, don't be afraid to open up and write. And in all honesty, people feel free to send stuff to me and I'd happily, you know, highlight areas where you can improve, highlight things you do really, really well. And, it's the best thing to do is just to open your laptop and write. Don't think, "Oh, should I do this? Should I not?" Just do it, and especially when you're under a stress-free environment, when you can have some time to try and look at it as well. So that's probably the best bit of advice is, yeah, to make the most of the things you have around you. So presenting TikTok, YouTube from a journalist perspective, just open your laptop. If you've got Microsoft Word or Notes or whatever it is, it's just give it a go. It's the best place to start.
Yes, I also always think like I do the podcast, but we have a little team who also do the socials. And all those people are like voluntarily based because I wish I could pay them, but that's for me not an opportunity to do so. But I always think like this is experience you can use in the future. And sometimes I think people forget that like you could be rather doing something voluntarily
Yeah.
based and gain experience than doing nothing at home and hope for the
Yeah,
opportunity to arise.
it is really, really hard. And I do completely understand where people come from. They say they should be getting paid for the kind of volunteering stuff. And to a certain extent, they are correct. Ultimately, if you're doing the same thing you'd be doing if you were getting in a paid position, then okay, maybe you should be getting paid. But at the same time, it's through these volunteering companies where so many of the best presenters and journalists in the world have come from. I know several who are working for, the likes of Auto Sports, obviously Racing News 365. There's somebody else who I've got here who came from Checker Flag, Sky Sports, The Athletic, Fox Sports. You'll be amazed, and the most important thing is gaining the experience. And yeah, and again, it does sound so wrong saying, suck it up and just do it kind of thing. I know it's for free, but even if you do an hour for free, that could be one article, two articles, depending how quickly you write. But even that, you can get feedback from that, and just that 1 hour of volunteering, you can gain so much back from it. I'm not saying go and do 6, 7 hours, 8 hours for free on one night, and you know, yeah, okay, in my case I did, but that's just because I'm weird. But it's very much a case of any small amount of time that you can give up for volunteering to practice your trade, what you want to do, makes such a big difference in the long run because it gains you that experience. You can then get tutored and mentored and become better. And obviously, once you get to a certain point, then all of a sudden you don't need to do the volunteering anymore because you're then at a level where you can go and do a job and get paid for it.
Yeah, that's always what I think. I'm like, I get that people are saying it, but I think you have rather have some the experience and become a better like a writer or presenter of whatever you
Yeah.
want to do. Then you don't, and then a lot of the times you're not like experienced enough to do the jobs you want to do.
Yeah.
So it's it's a
This is
balance.
Yeah, because from the presenting side of things, this is what's quite cool with TikTok and YouTube is obviously at the beginning, obviously when your content, like mine was, really rusty and rubbish, obviously it's not necessarily going to get that many views. And of course, with both, you need to hit certain targets to start earning some money. But of course, as you then get better, obviously you start getting more views, and obviously the more views you get, more subscribers or followers, and eventually when you're at a very good level, you start making some money. So from that side of things, you put in and it's the same way you put in the hard work not to get paid for it, but eventually it gets to a point where you're good enough to start getting paid, if that makes more sense. So I guess
Yes.
it's very similar on the presenting side of things, but also the journalism, because I guess the difference with the presenting is you can actually see your follower count increasing, your number of likes going up. And obviously once you hit that point, you know, you then start getting paid for it. And it's always a special feeling when you start getting paid for something you've put a lot of hard work in, and not gotten paid for it in the past. It's then a special feeling when you get your first paycheck of, huh, all that volunteering I did, it was worthwhile.
Yes, because I also said it to Tom because he asked me why I started this, and mainly it is because I can gain experience, I can
Yeah,
starting a portfolio, and also like with like open spaces up for like for a team. It also give me the chance to give other people that chance you might not have gotten before. But also like sometimes feel that people forget like females in motorsport is voluntarily based. People
yeah,
forget that. And they are a really big account. Like a lot of things are voluntarily based without even realizing it is.
yeah.
So, like, yes, I get it. I wish I could pay people, but I can't. I mean, I don't even make money for myself doing this, so I don't think I'm able to pay my team. And also, like, I think my editor, she turned 18 a couple weeks ago. She likes editing. Like, she was like, "Oh yes, I did this and this and this and." I would like when we were searching for an editor, I was like, oh yes, I want to. I'm volunteering, which was really nice because it takes a little bit of me, but also she likes to do that and she gains more experience by doing so. And who knows, later in life she can use that to get a job.
Exactly, exactly.
So we're slowly coming to the end of the episode. Do you have questions for me?
Oh, okay. We've asked me what my goals are. What are your goals?
Yeah, that's a good one. In motorsport, I definitely want to work in motorsport. I'm still like debating on which side of communications. I mean, I really like the writing stuff, but also like the podcast stuff. So I'm not sure which of the two, but for now I'm doing both. Um, and hopefully earn money at some point.
Us, yeah. Well, yeah, money. We all like money, yeah.
Yes, no, but I mean now I'm doing this like just still work in hospitality. So I do that because I want to be able to travel to races. Uh, but at some point I hope I can transition like full time to motorsport. So yes, that is kind of the thing. I also want to build the podcast bigger and talk with more people. And so yeah, that's
You've
kind
got
of the goal at this point.
you've got a plan, and that's the first step. And you
Yes,
clearly do an
that's
amazing job because I've seen some of the guests you've had on this podcast. So
yes, it's still
clearly
so
doing something
insane.
right.
It's always so insane to like with Jeff, we were like, oh my God. And then when Sanders emailed back, by the way, he's very bad at emailing back, which is understandably because, the man is busy. um, but that was also insane to get an email back from, yeah, I would love to be a guest. We were like, then I obviously had to do this alone of since 2 or 3 weeks, but it's still it's so insane. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I just did that.
Well, I mean, you're doing amazing. I mean, thank you for having me on. It's
No problem.
always nice being asked questions and answering. And like I said, though, if anybody who watches this, ever has any content or any questions that they want to ask me, please feel free to always reach out, whether it's on Instagram, Twitter. I always want to be able to help people. So by all means, anybody watching this and wants any help with any journalism or presenting stuff, please feel free to reach out to me.
That's always good to know. I
Only if
mean,
I can
also,
ask for more tips and advice.
yeah, no, but I also felt like that the Formula E community and also like the media, they are very willing to talk to you and help you. And
Yes, with me as well. It's because, I came from nothing and, I've had to work through things. So I kind of have had to do every single step. So I understand how tough it is. And it's always nice to be able to help people in return and give them any kind of I'm still learning myself. I'm still understanding new things and making mistakes, but it's also nice to be able to pass on those mistakes and to your other younger people so they don't make them in the future. And that's the most amazing thing. The example I gave, for example, this aspiring presenter from Brazil, who's absolutely amazing, by the way, and helping her out, seeing her content improving, and it's it's nice being able to pass stuff on to you. If anybody has anything they want to ask, please feel free to ask me. I will try to help the best I can, but just know in return that if you ever see me and I'm lost, I'll probably ask you for travel advice.
That's totally fine. I mean, I didn't travel as much as I want to, but I think always funny because you need to do like conversations for exams a lot of times, and it was a strange exam, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to answer this. And then I just did, and he was like, yeah, actually, that was very good. I was like, oh, that's good to know. I just improvised that because I was like, that would make the most sense. That was very funny. There's always a little thing that I remember of doing something else than motorsport, is that you have very different interactions with other people, but also it learned me a lot of how to interact with people, because I've worked at the reception of a hotel, and you have a very lovely guest, but you also have a very,
I can
very
imagine.
rude and annoying guest, which is
I used to work so my first job was in a supermarket. So yeah, good and bad customers, I remember well.
yeah, I loved the amazing the amazing guest. Yes, you have some very rude and annoying guests, and then you still need to be nice. And inside of yourself, you're like, I just want to pull you over the counter.
Yeah, can I throw this can of tomato soup at you?
I think people need to embrace those little first jobs and first work experience. It will bring you something along the line.
Well, I mean, from working in a supermarket, it taught me how to talk to people. That works out quite well for my job now. So
yes,
I can always thank every time I do an interview, I can thank my supermarket.
Yeah, I think it's for me, it's the same. I was a very shy girl in high school, and I'm always watching first, and then I would do something. But I think it also learned me to speak to like strangers, because essentially, if you working in a hotel, most of the guests you never seen before, and you still need to have a conversation and know what they want to, why they are there, and maybe you can help them with something. And I think that learned a lot for me. I learned a lot of that in that. But yes, this end of this episode, I want to thank you for being here. It was very lovely speaking with you.
Well, thank you for having me on. So, like I said, it's been nice being asked questions for a change rather than thinking what I'm going to ask. So thank you. It's an honor to be the latest guest.
That's very lovely to hear. And for my listeners, if you don't follow us already on our socials, in the description of today's episodes, you will find the Linktree link with all of the socials and the WhatsApp groups for the European races. I still need to make the new ones, but the ones for this year are still on there. And thank you for listening, and I will see you next week with another amazing guests.
Bye.
Girl, I'm staying fat.